Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the Black Carnivore podcast. I am really excited to bring Ben Azadi today, who is, the founder and creator of Keto Kamp. And I'm not sure if you have seen his, videos or seen anything about his content, but he is really amazing and has a vibrant community to help people learn about and do and follow the keto diet. He had an amazing transformation, and that's what we're going to hear about today. So let's just dive right in. So Ben, let's hear a little bit more about your journey. Like, how did you get started? Why do you care about Keto Kamp? Why are you, or keto rather, why are you doing this and not something else?
Well, thank you for having me. Love what you're doing, and it's an honor to be with you today. Thanks to Alika for connecting us. So I got started in the health space back in 2008, where I was 24 years old, depressed, suicidal, looking on the internet for ways to end my life, rock bottom, just hated myself, hated life, and kept every time I explored ending my life, I kept thinking about my mother, and it kept stopping me. Thank God. So I knew I had to figure things out. At that point, I weighed 250 pounds. I had 34% body fat. I was categorized as being obese. And I started to actually pick up a book. I started to read a book, which led to 2 books and 3, 5, 10, 15. And I started to read authors that just changed my entire perspective on what I was dealing with. I read from incredible authors like Lisa Nichols and Tony Robbins and Earl Nightingale and Les Brown, these incredible authors who helped me take ownership and responsibility over my circumstances for the first time ever. And with the responsibility came change. And I believe that's the first step to change, is taking responsibility. That word responsibility is your ability to respond to life. My ability to respond to life was really poor up until that point. I was playing the victim card. I was blaming my genetics. I was blaming my enabling family members, my metabolism. But the books helped me take responsibility. And at that moment, I became the victor of my destiny, no longer the victim of my history. And I started to just change my ways. And 9 months later, after making those changes and taking responsibility, 9 months later, I lost 80 pounds. I went from 250 pounds down to 170 pounds, 34% body fat down to 6% body fat. I finally achieved a physical six-pack, which is something I always dreamed of. But the most important thing that I achieved was a mental six-pack. I started to think better thoughts. I started to understand how important those thoughts are to healing. And that's what opened up the door into the health space. That was 13 years ago. And ever since then, I've been on a mission to get the message out there to as many people as possible.
Wow, that's really amazing. So do you think that do you think that the diet had an impact on your mental health in terms of helping you move through that period of being suicidal, or was that like separate or?
Absolutely. A diet absolutely played a part of that. It wasn't the only thing, but it was one of many things. When you start to eat better and when you start to exercise, because exercise is a very potent antidepressant, you start to feel better. You start to look better. And when you look better, you feel even more better. So all of that played a role. But it wasn't until 2013, 2014 that I discovered keto, because I didn't do keto back then. And I was fit, but I was like a fit, sick person. I had digestive issues. So I wasn't necessarily healthy until I discovered keto in 2013. And I paired that with fasting. And then I really started to experience what true health looked like and what true health felt like. And that's where it took my mental capabilities to a whole new level too.
Okay. And so at what point, you've written some books and you started Keto Kamp. So which came first and what, got you thinking about doing that?
My first book came out in 2018, which was just like, it's a very simple, it's called the Perfect Health Booklet, just giving you some general rules to health. And it was in 2019 that I rebranded from my previous company called Shred Fat to Keto Kamp. So Keto Kamp was a rebrand, even though it was
Uh,
me doing what I always taught, but it was a rebrand in 2019. So Keto Kamp came after the first couple of books. And that's where I focused in on the niche and really just took off with Keto Kamp.
mhm. So, what were the things that you saw, or why did you want to, help other people? I mean, there are lots of people that are like, yeah, get on keto, all this great stuff happens, and now I can go on and do my other thing.
Yeah. Well, when we look at the stats out there, we know that so many people are struggling with symptoms. Being overweight is a symptom. Being obese is a symptom. Cancer is a symptom. They're not necessarily the problem. Nobody has a weight problem. They have a weight symptom. So I see that, and I see so many people looking for the magic pill for quick solutions. But the truth is, there's nothing external. It's really internal, and it starts with your thoughts. You change your thoughts, you start to change your life. And then you change the food you put in your mouth, which changes your thoughts to think better thoughts. So when you look at health, when you look at weight loss as getting healthy first, it changes everything. The body gets healthy to lose that weight, not the other way around. So what lights me up and what inspires me, and I know for you too, is to see how many people are suffering and giving them the solution so they can no longer have to suffer. They change their life and they start to change that. They start to share that with their community, and it changes their community's lives. So I want to put a dent in disease. I want people people don't have to deal with unnecessarily suffering. And that's what lights me up every day.
Yeah. And I love that you say that you kind of have to get healthy in order to lose weight. I feel like, well, on the carnivore diet, like that's the first thing that's happening. And, people may complain about not losing weight, but, they'll be talking about their blood pressure dropping, inflammation dropping, their skin looks better, they're getting better sleep, and all this stuff is happening within the first, 1 or 2 weeks. I mean, it's pretty dramatic what happens, but the scale may not be moving. And it's kind of like, I don't know why, but it just happens this way, that you have to heal, and then your body gets to the other stuff.
Absolutely. And we shouldn't focus on the scale. The scale is a liar. It's not what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on health. And as you continuously get healthy with carnivore, keto, fasting, whatever tool you're using, the body will lose that weight. And you want to focus on non-scale victories. You mentioned a few of them: your energy levels, how your clothes fit, take your body fat percentage. But if you're just looking at the scale and saying, oh, this doesn't work, you're setting yourself up for yo-yo dieting. And that's where a lot of people fall into some traps.
Yeah. So what, who do you think is like, the right person to try a keto diet? I feel like, I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like everybody can benefit from doing it, but there's, I guess, different opinions. So what are your thoughts? Like, why would you do, low carb versus, paleo or keto or carnivore? What do you think?
Everybody could benefit to using keto as a tool. And if you're doing carnivore, you're doing keto too. I mean, you're in ketosis when you're doing carnivore. When we think about how the body works, there's about 50 to 70 trillion cells in the body. Out of those trillion cells, you only have two options for an energy source. Either your cells are burning glucose, sugar, same thing, or burning fat using ketones. If a cell is stuck burning sugar, it is highly inflammatory. When I was obese, I was a sugar burner. How do you know you're a sugar burner? You have to eat every 2 to 3 hours. You can't skip a meal. If you skip a meal, you end up being hangry, and you are gaining weight. If you're a sugar burner, you're going to have all that, one or two or all of the above. I compare a cell that's burning sugar to a truck. If you picture a truck that's going through the highway with all this smoke coming out of the exhaust pipe, that truck is not healthy for the surrounding environment. Well, when your cells are burning sugar, it's not healthy for your cellular environment. Your cells produce energy and it creates cellular smoke, toxins, and it creates a lot more when you're burning sugar. When you transition to what I call the great land of ketosis, and now you're burning fat, that's a much cleaner source of energy for your cells. I compare that to a Tesla cruising through your streets. That Tesla is a much cleaner source of energy versus the truck. So anybody could benefit from a cleaner source of energy. Now, to the extent of how long you want to be in ketosis and when you want to start flexing out, that's dependent on that person and their goals, et cetera. But I believe everybody could benefit from it. And the reason I believe that as well is not just because what I just explained, but every single one of our ancestors did keto. That is a fact. It's nothing new about keto, nothing new about carnivore, nothing new about fasting. It's been around forever. It's not a fad diet. The real fad diet is the standard American diet. That has only been around for 50 years. Keto, carnivore, has been around since humans have existed. So let's get clear on the real fad diet.
Well, people yell at me a lot that this is just a fad, and it's unhealthy, and there's no evidence for it. So what do you say to that? You have to pull
Uh,
out the history books. Like, dude, look here. It
yeah, I
says
mean,
200 million years old.
right. Yeah, exactly. They're just ignoring history. What I would say to them is, let's think about it and look back at our ancestors. Every single one of our ancestors, they were in ketosis. That's a fact. How do I know that? Because they did not have food readily available to them, and they had to fast. When you fast, you start to mobilize fat, burn fat, and your brain needs an energy source that's not glucose, because glucose is dropping. And what's that energy source? Ketones. So if we didn't have the ability to get into ketosis, we probably wouldn't exist. Our ancestors wouldn't have survived. They wouldn't have been able to think and hunt. So that's a fact. And they had times where they only ate meat, which is called the carnivore diet. We're just putting a label on it, but it's something that was just natural for so many years. Fast forward to today, we're so far removed from these ancient healing strategies that when we talk about them, they're called fads and weight loss diets and gimmicks, because so many people are just so used to what they see around them, which is standard American diet junk and crap. That is new.
Mhm.
That has not been around forever. So we just have to kind of unlearn what we've been taught and then relearn the principles of health.
Yeah. Well, you have a program, right? So you're helping people learn more about keto and figure out how to implement it in their life. So what would you say is like the biggest obstacle that people face, or what are the things that they're most concerned about?
That's a good question. I'll start with this. When I see somebody struggle on keto, the number one reason why is they're not producing healthy bile. The liver is the soccer mom organ because she does everything for us. The liver, it produces a substance called bile. Bile is like liquid gold. Bile helps break down fat, and it helps you detoxify. So many people have beat up their liver throughout their lifetime through medications, high processed foods, alcohol, toxins, and then you start to eat more fat like you do with keto, even carnivore, and then you can't break down that fat because your bile is too thick. You feel awful and you say, oh, this doesn't work for me. It's just not for me. So what do? What's the solution? You want to support the liver with bitters, and they're not carnivore, but they're keto bitters, meaning arugula, dandelion greens, bok choy, coffee is a bitter, apple cider vinegar. So getting your bitters up or taking an ox bile supplement can help support that liver. Now, if you want to do it with carnivore, there's some other ways to support your liver, like a castor oil pack, a coffee enema. There's things you can do, but you want to support the liver. That's number one. Also, just to add on to that answer, a lot of people are doing everything perfectly externally, like they're getting their macros perfectly, they're intermittent fasting with their great schedule, they're exercising, but they have hateful, negative, resentful thoughts. And our thoughts are very, very important. We become what we think about most of the time. And the average human being is thinking 60,000 thoughts every single day. 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts from the day before, and they're typically negative, stinking thinking thoughts. And if your thinking is stinking, your dreams are shrinking. So you got to really reprogram this subconscious mind, exercise before you exercise. How do you do that? You do it with affirmations, you do it with gratitude journaling, you do it with changing your friends and your environment, the people around you, because you become your environment. So you want to make sure you control your thoughts and get better at thinking better healing thoughts. And that makes a huge difference with any diet you're following, any fasting plan you're doing. You got to change those thoughts.
Oh, that's interesting. One of the things that I find interesting about carnivore is a lot of the people that I work with kind of as they start like spontaneously quit stuff, so quit alcohol, quit smoking cigarettes, quit doing, the drugs of, various kinds. So there's something about not having the carbs, being into ketosis, having that healing that just kind of causes people to spontaneously quit. And I wonder, what if that has to do with, some of this, the head stuff that you're talking about. What do you think?
Probably. Also, disciplines transfer. So a lot of people, when they start to get disciplined in one area, that discipline transfers to another area. And the opposite is true. Like being sloppy in one area could lead to more sloppiness in other areas. So as they're cleaning up their nutrition, they start to clean up other aspects because these disciplines do transfer. So that's one part of it. But something that really I see a lot of people struggle, and it's not just with their health. It's like, I want to start a YouTube channel. I'm like, oh, I'm going to start it Monday. It doesn't happen. I'm going to start it next month. It doesn't happen. Or I'm going to start Carnivore next. It doesn't happen. The reason why it doesn't happen is a lack of respect for yourself. Meaning, if you had a job interview Friday morning at 9 a.m., and this was a highly respected job, the person interviewing you was highly respected, you have respect for it. You're going to show up at 9 a.m. because you have respect for that person. If you have a date with somebody that you are going out with and you respect them, you're going to show up on time for that date. But if you're not showing up on time for yourself, it's a lack of respect for yourself. So we have to determine, where is that coming from? Where is this lack of respect coming from? And start to respect yourself. Then you would show up for that YouTube channel. Then you would show up for that whatever dietary changes. But it's a lack of respect for yourself. And that starts to change when you start to change your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely see that, following through on commitments that you make to yourself is super important in terms of, maintaining and developing self-esteem. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the definition of excellence. The definition of excellence is a commitment to completion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you incorporate that into your program? So you have the Keto Kamp, and can you just tell us a little bit more about what it is and how do you incorporate that in your program?
Yeah, Keto Kamp is my company, and then I have my Keto Kamp Academy, which you were referring to, is my online program. There's a section in the academy that's called Mental Six Pack, where I have a lot of videos on reprogramming that mind, book reviews, things that really have made a big difference for me. We also do monthly challenges. So we had a challenge recently where we did an affirmation, and it was a very simple challenge. Every single morning, you want to read an affirmation that I came up with, which is, I am so happy and grateful for all the joy, abundance, and love that finds me today. I'm open, I'm ready, I receive, right? You write that down on a note, on a piece of index card. I'm so happy and grateful for the joy, love, and abundance that finds me today. I am open, I'm ready, I receive. And the challenge was just every morning, the first thing you do before you look at your phone, before you use the bathroom, look at that card and read it out loud, right? Just by doing that, by starting your day off with that, makes a big difference. And then, of course, you stack that with other things like gratitude journaling, but that's an easy start for anybody can do that.
Wow, it sounds like you're a master of morning routines. Like, how many different things have you tried, and what would you recommend for us to get your most productive day in?
The morning is very important. That's when the subconscious mind is the most impressionable. So the worst thing that we can do is look at our phone first thing in the morning, because you'll just end up, it's like playing Russian roulette. You can look at your phone and see a great text message or an awesome comment on your YouTube channel, or you'll see a hateful comment or a problem you have to solve, and all of a sudden you're scrambling for the rest of your day. So the main thing, don't look at your phone. I personally do gratitude journaling. I write down my goals. I do my affirmations. I get morning sunlight, walk my dog. So I have an extended routine. You don't have to do all that I do, but having some buffer, some time to own that morning helps you win the rest of the day. So I recommend, whether that's 5 minutes or an hour, having some sort of routine. It could be meditation, it could be red light therapy, but be present, be in that moment, and start feeding your subconscious mind all the things that you want to work for you. And rest assured, it will happen. It will take place for you.
Nice. I've been trying to meditate every morning as soon as I get up, and that never happens. But I do manage to fit it in by noon, because I feel like I want to do it in the morning, and it is morning until noon. Ideally, I would love to get up, do the meditation, do some journaling, take my dog to the park, and then go on from there. So I'm still working on that, but at least the activity is happening.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a work in progress, and you just get better and better at it. And meditation could be great for some and not great for others. Some people just don't enjoy it, but I do see the value in it. There's so many different ways to meditate. There's like a walking meditation where you just walk and stay present. There's, of course, transcendental meditation, guided meditation. So find what works best for you.
Yeah. Actually, I did transcendental meditation for a while, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I got my word, but just didn't stick with it. Oh well.
It can be
So
tough.
yeah, definitely. So can you tell me, so in your program, do you help people sort of experiment with keto? Like, how do you define keto? 'Cause I feel like people come to me with some interesting, ideas about what keto is or what it means, and, kind of have to clarify that and help people to kind of figure out where, how they want to do it and where it fits into their lives.
Yeah, keto is simply a metabolic process. Technically not a diet, it's a metabolic process. So there's so many different ways to do keto. The way that we teach it at Keto Kamp is a clean keto approach, and to eventually start flexing in and out to develop metabolic freedom, metabolic flexibility, and then flex in and out. And that's an 8 to 12 week approach before we flex out of ketosis. And we focus on healthy, high quality saturated fats, monounsaturated fats. We avoid polyunsaturated fats, which are these PUFAs that are highly inflammatory. I know you've interviewed like Nina Teicholz and a few others.
So those are the seed oils, right?
Exactly. They're called vegetable oils, but more accurately described as seed oils. Canola oil, cottonseed oil, corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, rice bran oil, grapeseed oil, and cottonseed oil. I don't know if I said that, but yeah, those are the seed oils. They are called PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids. They're all keto friendly, but they're not health friendly. So if you're going to do keto, you want to stick with saturated and monounsaturated fats, such as olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee, duck fat, lard, coconut oil. These are much healthier for your cells, your cell membranes. So we teach a clean keto approach. We make sure we keep our electrolytes up. We get you into ketosis. I have a 4-pillar approach that I teach in my book, Keto Flex, and I teach it in the academy. The first pillar is adapt, get you fat adapted. The second pillar is fast, practice intermittent fasting. The third pillar is called phase. We actually phase out all carbs and do carnivore. And then the fourth pillar is flexing in and out of ketosis. So that's in general the structure of it.
Whoa, really? So why do you do carnivore and then go into the flex? Or
I
is
like,
there?
yeah, I like carnivore for most people 30 to 60 days as a great way to reset the gut. A lot of people have leaky gut. You remove all those anti-nutrients. It's a great way to repair that gut, especially when you combine it with fasting and fasting strategies. And then I like for them to flex in and out, because there's an argument to be made that some of these plant toxins could act as a hormetic stressor as long as you have a healthy gut, right? But if you don't have a healthy gut, like a lot of people, you got to do carnivore until you fix that gut. And then eventually you might be able to reintroduce them. So that's my philosophy on it. I like to be flexible with it, with keto, with carnivore. The goal is to heal that gut so you could tolerate and actually benefit from some of these plants.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess a lot of the people that I work with are in their, between 40 and 60 years old and have been overweight or obese for, 20, 30 years, all of their lives. And so, I think about this idea of flexing in and out of ketosis, but then I wonder, how do you get to the point where you're healthy enough and strong enough to make that work? I mean, I feel like it takes a while if you are older and you have been sick longer. So what do you think about that?
No, I agree. Flexing is going to be a custom approach. And I talk about this in the book. If you've reached that flex pillar, but you still have insulin resistance, you have more than 20 pounds to lose, you have diabetes, then it's not time to flex. Keep working on your metabolism, stay in ketosis, do some carnivore. Eventually you get to a point where you've healed that, and now you could flex out. And you could check blood work to verify that. You could use a CGM. There's different ways to flex as well. Like a traditional way that I teach flexing is 100 to 150 grams of carbs for a day. Whole foods carbs, but that's still considered low carb compared to a standard American diet, but it's not low enough to be in ketosis. So you do flex out. But let's say you want to flex, but you still have insulin resistance. You still have some metabolic damage. You could do that with a high protein, high caloric day. There's different ways to do it. So you want to kind of customize it based off of where you are at with your goals.
So when you're flexing, it's not pizza and brownies and
No.
donuts.
Ideally, it's not, but some people are going to have that anyways. And if you're going to have that anyways, the best time to have it would be with a strategic flex day. Although I don't recommend having that, but if you were going to have it, that would be the way to do it.
Okay. Well, since we're talking about it, we're going into the holiday season. What do you recommend for people? Like, do you suggest flex days, or like how do you suggest people get through the holidays?
If you've done the work and you have been in ketosis for quite some time, 12 weeks or so, you don't have any insulin resistance or metabolic damage, then yeah, enjoy yourself. Flex out on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, whatever holiday you celebrate. If you still have work to do, then I would stick with the plan. Like if it was me, I would make sure I'm just eating the turkey on Thanksgiving and eating, the meat and the protein. Same thing for Christmas. You're going to have those options, the cheese, if you're going to have cheese, but I would stick with the game plan and earn the badge to flex out. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's, during Easter or whatever. But yeah, I would stick with the game plan. If you're going to have carbs on these holidays, which a lot of people will because their environment will kind of peer pressure them, the best thing you can do is to be active around that meal. So that could just mean exercising on that day, or after eating that meal, going for like a 20-minute walk. It's a great way to kind of put a dent in the damage that's being done.
That's a great idea. I know here, well, in Brooklyn, they have a turkey trot. So you can run a 3K and then, go
enjoy
back
yourself
and have your dinner. Yeah. Yeah. It's through the park and it's apparently a very easy run. But I have not done that. Okay. So I actually think that's really cool that you incorporate, some level of carnivore into your program. I kind of feel like people who are long-term keto people, vegetables just kind of at a certain point kind of just fall out, and they don't take the central role that they do in the beginning. And so I feel like people start having, bacon and eggs for breakfast, and then, a steak for lunch, and then, something else for dinner, and maybe an avocado. And, next thing you know, there's just carnivore for days without calling it that necessarily. Is that something you see, or what do you think?
I do see a lot of people transition from keto to carnivore, and they call it, ketovore. Carnivore is terrific. It's such a great tool. I mean, I've done it several times. I do it 3 or 4 times a year for 30 to 60 days. And every time I do it, I feel really great. Like if I know I'm going to be speaking at different conferences in a specific month, I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to be doing carnivore during that month for several reasons. Number one, it helps keep my immune system strong. Number two, I feel so mentally clear when I'm doing carnivore versus even doing keto. And I just feel awesome when I'm doing carnivore. It helps with the gut. So I think it's such a great tool. And most people have some form of leaky gut. And the reason they have that is because too many plant toxins, too many anti-nutrients. And now they're at a point where even the healthiest plant in the world causes more problems than it does any benefits. So doing carnivore eliminates all that. And so for me, it's been great. I've done some experiments with it. I've looked at some other people doing it, put some people on it, and they benefit. I've done lab work. So now it's a part of my pillars. It wasn't until about a year and a half ago. My third pillar was still called phase, but it was just kind of like a very low carb pillar where you still had some vegetables, but then I turned it into a carnivore pillar because I fell in love with carnivore so much.
Mm-hmm. So even that small amount of vegetable, you see a greater benefit when people just take it out entirely.
Yeah, a complete reset on the gut. Complete reset, especially when you pair it with intermittent fasting, because fasting is another great way to stress the gut in a good way, but to help it repair itself. So you combine carnivore with fasting strategies, great tools.
Yeah. I definitely find that I enjoy being more strict with it. And, some people can be more loose with it, but it definitely works better for me to be, very strict. And when I took out all of the spices, I was surprised at what a difference that made for me. I'm a person that has just like a ton of allergies and autoimmune stuff, and so it benefits me to be pretty strict on it. But not everybody needs to do that. So I like
That's exactly
that,
right.
yeah, I like that there's variation and how you do it, and different people's bodies can tolerate different things.
Exactly, right? The more autoimmune things you got going on, the more leaky gut, the more strict you want to be. To your point, you want to probably do like a level 1 beef, salt, and that's it. Maybe you could get away with a level 2 and still feel great, but you got to really test it out to see where you stand.
Yeah. And to trust that, things heal and change. So there were things that I feel like I couldn't tolerate in the beginning and now are fine. So yeah, it's definitely, it's definitely a growth, or it's, something you just kind of gotta roll with and see what happens.
Exactly. You got to experiment, see what goes for you. And the body can heal. The body is amazing. It will heal and adapt, but sometimes you have to remove the interference, let the body heal, and then start to reintroduce things and see how your body responds to it. It's tricky
Mhm.
when you start to reintroduce things because typically food sensitivities could take about 3 to 4 days for a symptom to manifest. So the optimal way to do it would be to introduce one item for 4 days, see if your body responds. If there's no negative feedback, then that could be a safe item, and then add one more 4 days. And that it's like the ultimate elimination diet. I know it's a long process, but it's a great way to identify what works for you versus what works against you.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, so to switch to a different track, um, how do you answer the question when people say, "Is this keto? Can I eat this? Is this keto?" How do you, deal with like all of the products that are out there and different things you can get at the grocery store?
Yeah, great question because keto is so popular that even though it's keto doesn't mean it's healthy. So I teach my keto campers how to read labels. I have them look out for artificial sweeteners, avoid Splenda, sucralose, even avoid high amounts of monk fruit and stevia, even though those are safer still in small amounts. And then avoid the vegetable oils.
Hmm.
That's the main thing is to avoid those industrial seed oils. And if you're doing that and looking at the actual labels and reading the ingredients, then you're going to be down the right path. Whether it's, says keto or not, it doesn't matter. Just look at those ingredients.
Hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, but what does it mean for a product to be keto? Because, people ask me, is this keto? And it's kind of like, well, I mean, unless it's like a chocolate fudge brownie, you know, anything can be keto depending on how much you eat of it, right? Like whether you're able to be in ketosis, stay in ketosis, versus whether it's a healthy choice.
Yeah, the only way to know is to see if it kicks you out of ketosis. Check your glucose and ketones and see what it does. I spoke at a conference in Las Vegas last month, the Las Vegas Keto Expo, and there was a vendor that had keto bread, and I looked at the ingredients, and the keto bread, although it was keto based off of like the macros, it had wheat in
Mhm.
it, and wheat's going to knock people out of ketosis. So you got to look out for those ingredients. But the only way to know is to test, see if it's knocking you out or not. You could have some fruit on keto, but depends, to your point, if you have too much, it'll knock you out. So it depends on how much you have, how active you are, how healthy your metabolism is. There's so many factors, but you got to test to see what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, at a certain point when, so I started on keto. So I started like in 2015, and then in December of 2017 is when I switched to carnivore. But I had lost my weight by that point. So when I went to carnivore, it was really more for the health stuff. But at a certain point on keto, I was keto by eating, meat, wine, chocolate, and nuts. And it was just sort of, balancing those items so that the carb count was low enough for me to stay in ketosis. So I was in ketosis, but it was not the healthiest. That was not the healthiest way of doing it.
No, and you knew that it wasn't. So, you know if you're doing it the right
I
way.
thought it was fine. I mean, because they would say, there are all of these antioxidants in chocolate, and wine is supposed to be good for you, and nuts. Yeah. So, it's like, yeah, it's okay. These are, yeah. Well, all right. I
Yeah,
think we get a lot of conflicting messages because those items they are presented to us as um, healthy and good for us, and like they have aspects of them that are supposed to be, for some reason, healthy for us.
yeah, having some dark chocolate, great, nothing wrong with that. It has antioxidants. There's benefits to dark chocolate. Wine depends on the type of wine you're drinking. Your liver does have to metabolize wine. It is treated as a toxin, so maybe not so much alcohol. But yeah, dark chocolate, some nuts. If you're getting like macadamia nuts, peely nuts, pecans, those are much safer. So it depends on which ones you're having. But I like to focus on animal-based protein, whether you're doing keto or
Hmm.
carnivore. Animal-based protein is where it's at. I would prioritize that, to hit 40 to 50 grams at minimum of animal-based protein at all your meals. And then you don't want to have to snack on all those other things if you're hitting that protein requirement.
Yeah. So, what would you say the protein requirement is? I get this question all the time, and I think it's hard to answer.
Yeah, if you're over the age of 65 or under the age of 21, you want more protein. So what does that mean? I would aim to get about 1 pound of protein per pound of lean body weight. So if your lean body weight is 120 pounds, then you want 120 grams of protein. If you're over the age of 65, might want to have like 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. But that kind of confuses people when I explain it that way. So the way I explain it is I say, hey, at all your meals, make sure you're getting at least 40 to 50 grams of animal-based protein, which is 8 to 10 ounces at every single meal. And as long as you're doing that, you should be in that right direction.
Hmm. What if you're a person who does one meal a day?
See, I think one meal a day is okay unless you're doing too much of it. So if you're doing one meal a day and you're obese, it's okay. Your body's going to get protein from your own body. You have a lot of it. But if you do it for too long, then you can end up causing more harm than good. So I would tell that person to mix it up and have 2 to 3 meals a day sometimes and get extra protein in and just mix things up, because it's always a good idea to mix things up.
Hmm. I mean, I kind of feel like, especially when people are getting started on carnivore, this is kind of like the first time that they have no cravings, that they're truly, truly, deeply physically satisfied. And so take such joy in only eating once a day and like not having to think about food. So I definitely have a lot of people that kind of fall into that category or that habit. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to like get you obsessed with eating or like force you back into eating, but at the same time, I really don't want you to do this every day. So
Yeah.
what do you do with that?
Yeah, it's tough because you're right. They fall in love with fasting. They fall in love with carnivore. When I do carnivore, I'm so satiated as well that I kind of fall into a one meal a day. Um, so I just tell them, hey, have maybe 2 days out of the week where you're not doing OMAD. You're having lunch and
Okay.
dinner. Have sprinkle in a couple days where you have 2 meals instead of just one. I would tell them, hey, if you're just having one meal a day, your body will adapt to that, and you could actually slow down fat loss and do some things that you don't want your body to do. You need, hormonal conversions through meals and different things. So I would tell them, if you want to accelerate your results, you want to mix it up and not stick with the same routine every day. And that includes OMAD.
Gotcha. It's a great idea. I actually joined the Jason Fung's The Fasting Method, and just I feel like fasting is something that a lot of people like to do, and there is evidence that it can be really a helpful tool to add to your tool chest. So I wanted to make sure that I was as familiar as possible with like the different ways of doing it, and it was like an eye opener because I really hadn't thought about sort of juggling and having things change and trying a lot of different routines of fasting. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that I know they're aligned with this as well. I've done some work with Jason and Megan Ramos and Nadia that he endorsed, and so did Megan. They endorsed my book here. So
Nice.
yeah, they're aligned with, you know, flexing in and out. They're aligned with changing your schedule. They see the benefit of it. They see the benefit of doing OMAD. They see the benefit of doing longer fasts, but they like the idea of changing up the routine. So it's important. It keeps the body guessing and makes the body adapt, and that adaptation is important.
Hmm. Yeah. So, so then what? I mean, do you, well, I guess one of the questions is, if your clients are younger, do they reach their goals, or do you have people who are sort of continually staying with you to stay on track? Because I'm kind of interested in
Well, it takes years, not months, to achieve optimal health. There's always hidden stressors. Hitting a weight loss goal is not the same thing as hitting a health goal. So there's always going to be areas of opportunities for healing. So it's important to understand that as long as it took for you to get unhealthy, it might take you just as long. So it takes years, not months. But to answer your question, if somebody hits a weight loss goal, they still have work to do. There's always new research, there's always new things that I'm learning and I'm sharing, and I'm always sharing that with my community. And we're always doing new challenges to challenge people. So even though they might hit a weight goal, it doesn't necessarily mean they're at that optimal health. There might be something going on that they just don't feel good. They feel like they have to nap in the afternoon, or their sleep is, sidetracking, or they want to build muscle. They have a new goal. So I think it's important to always set new goals. If you hit one goal, celebrate it. We celebrate it with you. Okay, what's the next goal? And then you hit that goal, celebrate it. We should have a healthy dissatisfaction with our lives and be grateful and celebrate each victory, but not be satisfied. Well, the second you get satisfied and comfort, you're going in the opposite direction. So we want to set new goals and identify what is that goal, and then work towards that new goal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have talked a lot about like sugar and sugar addiction on my channel, and I definitely think that that's something that I suffer from. And carnivore was something that really allowed me to have freedom from sugar in a way that nothing else has before. So I I feel like the population that is in my community kind of has, like there's a lot of health challenges, and we have been unhealthy for a long time. So it's taking a long time to turn that around. But it's beautiful to see, definitely.
Yeah, and the body's amazing. The body could heal. A lot of people have sugar addiction. Carnivore is great because it's like there's no wiggle room. There's no stevia, monk fruit, and new addictions that you could develop. It's just like protein and fat, and protein is so satiating and filling, really helps with these addictions.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you feel like you see people with sugar addiction, or what's your experience like with people with that?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. There's so
Mm.
many people out there with the sugar addiction, food addiction in general. I used to be addicted to sugar and food.
Mhm.
So all the time it happens, and those individuals need more special care. Of course, there's a few things they can do from like a supplement point. They could take L-glutamine. L-glutamine helps calm the part of the brain that lights up when you experience a sugar addiction. They could take, cinnamon could help with their glucose regulation. But once they get fat adapted and they're in ketosis, really helps with that addiction. And once they start prioritizing protein, whether that's carnivore or not, really helps with that addiction. They need support. They need to really rewire that brain. I've interviewed several people on my podcast on sugar addiction. Most recently, last Friday, I interviewed Bitten Johnson, and I'm going to look at my notes here because she shared some great feedback. She said that, she said GABA helps with addiction, MCT oil, conscious breathing. She said, writing a list of what gives you energy versus what takes energy from you in your life. So, and start to do more things that energize you, whether it's exercise or meditation or hanging out with different people. And I liked how she explained what goes on in our mind when we experience this sugar addiction. She compares it to a red dog versus a blue dog. meaning the red dog is that like devil that says, go find sugar. Like, oh, I want that ice cream. And then the blue dog is like, no, you're in control here. Stay on course. So if you could look at it as the red dog taking over and say, no, red dog, you're not going to win. Come in here and blue dog, come take care of that red dog. Kind of have this conversation in your head and compare it to red dog versus blue dog really helps people. And she also talked about the importance of support, like having a coach like you or having a group to surround you. So there's many things you can do, and it takes time though.
Yeah. That's kind of the hardest part, making it through like life while you're taking this time. And I do, I definitely have people sort of complain or just find it challenging to deal with like transitioning into ketosis and going through carb withdrawals and, not getting the electrolytes right. And so, the first week or two can be kind of hellish, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, it doesn't have to be horrible. How do you like guide people through that? Or what do you say?
Yeah, that's a very, very common concern. So the way that I teach it is a two-step approach from being a sugar burner to getting into ketosis and being a fat burner. And if you do it the right way, I could take 100 people, 98 out of the 100, I could get them into ketosis, fat adapted in 7 days with no side effects, no keto flu, none of that. So the two steps are, number one, a gradual decrease in your total carbohydrate. So the average American eating 300 to 400 grams a day on day one, cut that by 50 grams. So if you're eating 300 grams of carbs per day, go to 250. And then on day two, go to 200. And then eventually keep doing that until you drop it below 50 grams. At the same time, hit what I call the 2-2-2-2 rule, which I wrote about in Keto Flex. Every day you want to consume 2 tablespoons of olive oil or avocado oil, 2 tablespoons of grass-fed butter or grass-fed ghee, 2 tablespoons of coconut oil or MCT oil, and 2 teaspoons of sea salt. What that's going to do is teach your body to have all this fat, healthy dietary fat start burning, and then the sea salt helps.
So wait, 6 tablespoons of fat plus 2 of some of the 3 different fats that you label are listed.
Yeah, and sea salt. Yeah, that's correct. It's not in one sitting, so it's throughout the day. Yeah, I know you're thinking that. No, it's not.
Thinking, wow,
yeah, you're gonna go to the bathroom if that happened. Yeah,
yeah.
You're having that with the food you're cooking your oils in, with your salad dressings, your dips. It's throughout the whole day. And it's just for those first 7 days to really get an abundance of healthy fat as you decrease your carbs. And then the sea salt just helps with that electrolyte dumping that's taking place. And if you do that in 7 days, you'll be in ketosis, fat adapted with no side effects.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what is fat adapted to you? Is that just in ketosis or what?
Yep, that means you're just in ketosis. It's different than keto adaptation. Keto adaptation takes a little bit longer, 8 to 12 weeks.
Right.
That means your mitochondria now prefer ketones. That takes a little bit longer. But fat adaptation simply means you're checking your blood ketones and it says 0.5 or higher. You're fat adapted. You're in ketosis.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I remember when I first did it, going into ketosis, it took about 6 to 8 weeks. And then one day I was like, God, I feel great.
Yeah.
I just feel good and have lots of energy. I haven't thought about M&Ms in 3 days. Wow. And I was like, I guess that was what that fat adaptation was.
Yeah.
It was definitely like a light switch. So I hope everybody watching, if you're wondering, it's noticeable. You won't miss it.
It is. Yeah. That's why I call it the great land of ketosis. You just like, it feels so great, to your point.
Yeah. But it is, you have to be patient to get there. And that's the part that I think is hard for people, and it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it takes time to get there. That's why it's important to, have a coach, have an accountability group, have that support, because you do become your environment. So if your environment is telling you, what are you doing? Carnivore, keto, fasting, you're crazy. It's going to be much more difficult to do it versus an environment that's asking you, how are you doing? How can I support you? How can I help you? So that environment is key.
I feel like so many people are doing keto. Like, it is known, it is pretty common. So why does it still feel like we're all alone? I mean, like, where are all these people who are doing it, and why are they not around us?
Yeah, it is kind of mainstream. You're right, but it's not to the point where people understand it. It's a gift and a curse because people know about keto, but there's so much information out there, and a lot of it is bad information, and it makes keto look bad. So that's the gift and the curse. We have to find people who are teaching it the right way and doing it the right way versus those who are going to McDonald's and getting a Big Mac without the bun and saying they're keto. That's not how we want to do keto, even though it is technically keto. So that's the issue. Clean keto is a small percentage. Dirty keto is a bigger percentage.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, um, yeah, that's definitely an issue. And I don't know. I feel like I've had people tell me that like keto causes diabetes, and I'm like, I don't even understand. Where are you getting that? You just made that up. Like it's just not true.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, all of those studies that talk about, a high fat diet leading to diabetes, a high fat diet leading to some sort of disorder. When you look at the studies, it was two problems with each of those studies. Number one, it's a diet that's high fat and high carbs, not good, or it's high fat, low carb, so it is keto, but they're eating a whole bunch of those industrial seed oils. So that's the
mhm.
problem. And I agree, we don't want to do keto that way. That could lead to diabetes from inflammation. But clean keto, healthy clean keto will not lead to that. It'll reverse many of those conditions.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess I would want to leave people off with, really good advice through this holiday season. I have a challenge going, and it's wrapping up at the end of the week. And I'm actually going to do another one starting December 1st because I really kind of want to help people at least get a couple of solid weeks under their belt. So even if, they go into the holiday and go crazy, like doing that from a position of being keto, well, fat adapted anyway, and potentially even keto adapted will really help. So that was kind of what I wanted to do. What are you going to tell your people, and what do you tell the people listening today?
I love that you're doing the challenges. Awesome. Great idea. I do monthly challenges with my group as well. It's fun, keeps people engaged, accountable, etc. So that's awesome. What I would tell them is that reasons come before results. Okay. Why do you want to do keto? Why do you want to do carnivore? Why do you want to lose the weight? Get clear on the reason why. Once the why is strong, the how becomes much more easier. And when you are clear on your why, write it down. Keep it in front of you. Put it on your computer monitor. Put it on your bathroom mirror. Put it on your refrigerator. Keep reminding yourself of why you're doing this. And if you could keep that in front of you, it's going to make everything that much easier. Second thing I would say is if you have a setback, don't dwell on the setback. Focus on the get back. Sometimes setbacks are setups for something great. So what can you learn from that? What structure can you put in place so next time it doesn't happen again? Failure is not a person. Failure is an event. But if you have learned from that failure, now that failure becomes wisdom and there's no such thing as failure. So what can you learn from it? Don't worry about a setback. Don't take one day of bad eating and turn that into 1 month. Forget about it. Get back on course, learn from it, put a new structure in place, and just keep pushing forward. We're all going to experience setbacks, but we don't want a speed bump to turn into a stop sign. We want a speed bump to be what exactly it is, just a slowing down of your progress, but you just keep pushing forward.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's definitely helpful advice. And how about you? What are you going to be doing for the holidays? Are you going to dig in and eat grandma's sweet potato pie, or?
That sounds delicious. Yeah, I'm gonna keto flex. I've done the work. I'm metabolically flexible. I'm gonna stay active on those days, go for walks after those meals. I don't make an exception with vegetable oils or gluten. I rarely have any of those. I would say never, but sometimes I imagine they're hidden somewhere I don't see. But I don't make an exception with vegetable oil and with gluten, but I do make an exception with sugar because I could burn that off. So I am going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to feel guilty about it. I'm going to celebrate with my friends and family, be in gratitude, and then get right back on course.
Mhm. Nice. I'm gonna stay on a program and eat a totally carnivore meal. So,
I love the
you know, I've
commitment.
Yeah. Well, I've done both over the years, and trying to stick with the program or just kind of eat whatever, and eating whatever just never turns out well for me. So I'm tired of experimenting with that.
It's good. It's good awareness. Good to know that about yourself. So kudos to you. Way to commit to what you believe is good for you.
Yeah, yeah. So, and one last question is, so is your family like on board, or do they eat keto? Like, do they listen to you, or?
My fiance doesn't do it as much as I do it. She'll practice intermittent fasting. She'll have some keto days, but definitely not as disciplined as me. My mom, she'll do fasting from time to time. She's Muslim, so she'll do like the Ramadan fasting. Other than that, not so much. So it's pretty much me in my family. My sister lives in Texas, so I don't really see her that often, but she doesn't do keto and fasting. But yeah, I'm pretty much the sole person in my family. What about
Yeah,
you?
no, I couldn't convince anybody. Yeah. I mean, I begged and pleaded with my mom, who was clearly a sugar addict, but yeah, to no avail. And then ultimately, she developed cancer, and she passed away. And I do think that her health just was not good, and I think that for sure the sugar lifestyle contributed to the development of the cancer that she had. But I so I that gives me all the more, kind of fortitude to kind of stay focused on what's going to be healthiest for me. And then my dad is a staunch vegetarian for decades, and so yeah, and that side of the family, they definitely think what I'm doing is crazy.
Yeah, vegetarian, carnivore. I could see the confliction there.
Yeah.
Well, keep
So
doing what you're doing.
I'm going to my dad's for Thanksgiving this year, so we'll see how that goes. And
That's
I
gonna be
was like,
fun.
"Do you have an air fryer or anything?" And he's like, "Oh no." So I'm like, "Huh? How am I gonna cook when I go there?" So
That's gonna be
probably,
interesting.
yeah, probably gonna have to bring my own pots and pans and some cleaning stuff so I can make sure I clean off the fat. You know, that's the one thing I'd have to say that I don't like about carnivore is it's messy cleaning, like it's messy cooking. It's not super easy, and it is so important to have some of these like time saving devices like an Instant Pot, an air fryer, a grill. Like those things just make it so much easier.
Yeah, I have a Ninja indoor grill, which is also an air fryer. It's a game changer.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your coming on and sharing your expertise with the Black Carnivore community. I am sure that everyone is going to be really excited to catch this information and all of the wisdom that you shared. And I thank you so much. I really appreciate your coming on.
Thank you, Eid, for having me with your awesome community. Great to see you all, and grateful for the collaboration. So thanks for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely.